Hello, everyone. We are going to be working with decimals some more, kind of building on what we learned the last few weeks. This looks like it might be tough, but really, it's the same type of comparing numbers that we've been doing for a really long time, so it shouldn't be that difficult. So we are going to be comparing numbers that have decimals in them. And just a real quick review, a decimal is a way to represent numbers that have a part that is less than a whole with them. The easiest way to think about that is thinking of like dollars and change. So when I have money, I may have whole dollar bills and change. So the decimal point is a way to show that easily, to look and see what part of a whole I have and how many wholes I have in the same number. Okay. If you do not have a notebook with you, I want you to pause this, go get a notebook and a pencil, because this is going to be your thing that you can refer back to when you're doing any decimal activities, or if you have any questions about how to compare decimals. This is going to be your guide. So pause this video and go get everything you need so that you can write this down with me. Okay, so the numbers that we're going to compare today are 48 and 64 hundredths. And we're going to compare that number. I'll put my little circle here so that when we finish, we'll know where to put our symbol to compare. We're going to compare 48 and 64 hundredths with 48 and 68 hundredths. Take just a second and write this down. I know some of you are already going, oh, I know what to do. That's great. I want you to still, even if you already know the answer, even if you already know what to do, I still want you to copy these steps down, because as we work on this through the week, we're going to look at some numbers that are not necessarily as easy as the example. Okay? If you cannot remember what this is for, we are either going to put that this number is greater than this number, or we're going to put that this number is less than this number, or we will put that the two are equal. These are the symbols to show which decimal is the greatest and which one is the least. All right, as we go through this and you've had a lot of practice with it, you will get faster. But to start, I want to go through this kind of in a slow, step-by-step way. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is step one. And step one is copy down the numbers with the decimal or the decimals, there's two numbers, lined up. Okay? So step one is copy down the numbers with the decimals lined up. So what does that mean? You remember when we were learning how to add, and I say, okay, make sure your place values are lined up. Make sure your ones are lined up with your ones. Make sure your tens are lined up with your tens. This is the same. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure your decimals are lined up. So my first number would be 48 and 64 hundredths. I'm going to make sure my decimals are lined up. So I'm going to have 48 and 68 hundredths. Okay. Now in fifth grade, when you start adding decimals, this is still going to be the way that you line them up. You always make sure those decimals are aligned. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is to look at your numbers starting with the highest place value. Okay? So think back to when we were in third grade, or even back to when you were in second grade and you're comparing numbers. And they always say, start with your biggest place value. So if you have 112 and you're comparing that to 214, your first place value being your hundreds is where you're going to look. Okay? So I'm going to put these numbers again. I told you this is going to be very slow, very easy way to follow this. That's the point. I want you to be able to come back to this when you're not with me and you're not watching a video and still be able to do this on your own. So look at the numbers starting with the highest place value. This is your 10 wholes. This is your 1 whole. These are less than a whole. Okay? So just like millions, 100,000s, all the way, your greatest place value is still going to be on the left-hand side. So in this case, it's your tens place. Okay? I'm going to do this with each place value. And some of you are going, oh yeah, we've done this before. Yes, we have. Don't let the fact that these are decimals make you think that this is somehow harder. It is different, but it's not harder. Okay? We just have to kind of retrain our brain to look at a number that has wholes and parts in the same number. Number 3, you're going to cross out if they're equal. I'm going to put repeat. That means you're going to do this over and over until you get to a number that is not the same. So, yes, I am going to write these again. 48 and 64 hundredths. 48 and 68 hundredths. So I'm going to go back to number 2. I'm going to look at the highest place value, tens place, 4 and 4. Those are the same. That does me no good in figuring out which of these numbers is larger. So I'm just going to mark it out. They're the same. Go to my next place value. I have 8 ones and 8 ones. Does that help me? No, they're the same. I'm going to mark that out. And means I'm done with wholes. Now I'm looking at parts. I'm looking at these fractional pieces. 6 tenths and 6 tenths. They're the same. I'm going to mark it out. 4 hundredths and 8 hundredths. Are they the same? Okay. 8 hundredths is larger than 4 hundredths. So this is going to be the place value that makes the difference for me. Okay. Step 4, we are going to determine, fancy word to mean figure out or decide which number is greater. So you have already told me that 8 hundredths is more than 4 hundredths. So if we were to write this down as an inequality, then we will put 48 and 64 hundredths, 48 and 68 hundredths. You told me that this one right here is the largest, okay? So when we're when we're putting our symbol, we have to make sure that this inequality symbol that we put here shows that, okay? 48 and 64 hundredths is less than 48 and 68 hundredths. Or you could read this, 48 and 68 hundredths is greater than 48 and 64 hundredths. Okay? Please check and make sure you have your symbol turned the right way. If you can get to this step, that shows me that you know which one's bigger. Don't let just putting the symbol in mess you up. Small side, small number. Large side, large number. Okay? Doesn't matter which way we read the sentence. This number is always going to be greater than this one. Come up to the top of your anchor chart that you've made. And right here, I want you to put a symbol that matches the one at the bottom. 48 and 64 hundredths is less than 48 and 68 hundredths. I want us to look at just a couple more examples. This right here is what we're going to be doing for the next few days. The next few videos will all be on comparing. Some of them will be using the grids like we did in the other videos. Some will be just using symbols. So today, I want to put 2 numbers, let you copy this down, and we're going to talk about how would we compare numbers that look different. So what I mean by that is, let's use that same number that we had on our anchor chart. 48 and 64 hundredths. I don't know why it's doing crazy blurry things. There we go. Let's say we were comparing this to 8 and 64 hundredths. Step 1 was saying that you needed to line these up by their decimal point. And this is why. This is a perfect example to show you why that is so important. 48 and 64 hundredths. If I line them up with the decimal, 8 and 64 hundredths, it's going to show you something here. Yes, this number starts with 8. Yes, this number starts with 4. But you have to remember that we are comparing place values here. This 4 is 4 tens. This 8 is 8 ones. The place values are different, and that's so important when you're comparing numbers. Okay, so again, I'm going to come here and I'm going to look at that first place value. So I've got my tens, my ones, my tenths, and my hundredths. This TH means less than a whole. We're looking at fractional units there. Okay, this is a denominator of 10. These have a denominator of 100. Okay, so 4 and nothing. Well, 4 is greater than nothing. So right here is enough for me to answer this. There are no tens here. I could put a 0. There are 0 tens in this number. There are 8 ones. There are 48. 48 whole is greater than 8 wholes. So you would compare it this way. I wanted to point that out to you before we go into our other things, just to make sure that you understand, because the first number is bigger than the first number does not mean that you can compare them that way. Think about it like this. That would be like comparing 134 to 68. Oh, that has a 1 and that has a 6. This must be bigger, right? No, because when you look at your place value, hundreds and tens and ones, hundreds and tens and ones, this one has no hundreds. So it could actually be 0 hundreds, 68. That'd be really weird if we read it that way. But technically, that's what that means. So 134 is greater than 68. Okay, like I said, everything that we're going to be doing with comparing these decimals is going to kind of match what we did when we were just comparing whole numbers. Okay, I look forward to talking with you guys more about these. Again, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Hopefully this made sense to you. And next video, we will be practicing how to do these when we're looking at grids. So hopefully that'll make it all clear to you. I love you guys and stay safe.